Good evening, everyone. If you can find a place to sit. And school board members, if you'd like to take the table.
You don't have to.
Craig, it's okay.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you, everyone, for coming out on a hot July night. It's nice to see this many community members come out. We have 80 people, so that's pretty good. The way tonight's going to work, there's the agenda. Welcome by Superintendent King, so we can check that off. And then the chairman of the board, Penny Collins, is going to speak about the vision. What are we looking at? Why are we doing this? This isn't for next year, this is for the next 50 years. So what is that vision about? And then last year we had an opportunity to apply for a Maine Department of Education School Revolving Renovation Fund grant, and we worked with Mechanical Services, and Don Bresnahan was the lead on that and really helped us with applying for the grant. He looked at every nook and cranny of the buildings, and we got this grant with very favorable funding, some free money, some zero interest money, and we got funding for 4 of our 5 schools. If we finish that project, we will be doing all 5 schools with great air quality, so he will present that, followed by the separate bond project proposal for the athletic fields, the stage, performing arts, and cafeteria. And we have Michael Johanning and then Lisa from WBRC Architecture, who will present the schematics, many of which are up behind the building for that proposed project. And then Mr. Feifel, former chair, school board member, has general information on the financials, long-term funding, interest rates, impact on taxpayers, that kind of information. And then afterwards, we're going to have a question and answer period. People can come to the mic and ask a question and make a comment. And so there's going to be 2 kinds of questions. If we can answer the question right away, we'll answer the question right away. If not, we're going to put it in the parking lot. And those parking lot questions, we can't answer them right away. It needs a little research. Then we're going to go back and do the research and then get the information back. And there's a follow-up meeting next week on July 22. July 22 at 6:30 at Memorial Elementary School is the exact same meeting. So if you're in town and you're speaking to friends or neighbors and they think, geez, I'm sorry I missed it, we'd love to see them at Memorial School, 6:30, July 22. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Chairman Penny Collins.
Good evening. So I'll be brief. The temperature in here pretty much dictates that we keep moving along. Depending on who you ask, we started this process somewhere between 15 years ago and 18 months ago. So improvements to our district have been ongoing. Efforts to make large improvements to our district have also been undertaken. Some of them have been successful, some of them have not. COVID put a real cramp in our style on moving forward with this work some years ago. So while it's tempting to get into the history, our goal tonight is to showcase the proposed solutions to the needs in our pre-K through 12 districts serving both Gray and Gloucester. To frame tonight's material, I did want to call attention to our mission, vision, and strategic plan for our district, which briefly summed up is preparing students for their next step, instilling aspirations through rigorous and relevant educational experiences, and that we as a community of students, staff, and families are an educational partner providing a safe, fun, healthy, caring, and challenging environment where our kids can learn, succeed, grow, mature, and aspire to higher standards. Also relevant is our strategic plan. Goal number 3, all learners in MSAD 15 will attend schools that have high-quality indoor and outdoor facilities that meet academic, co-curricular, and other student service needs. Our current facilities do not meet the goal of meeting student needs. We have spent a year with the bond committee as a subset of the school board, getting feedback, asking questions, launching off from our April listening session in the community to form that committee and really dig into what the needs are. So from that report, tonight we are presenting significant work and rework by the board, bond committee, architectural firms, and district staff, and end users. We will struggle to keep that timely given how much it is, and it's very tempting to show everybody where it started. So these projects have really been distilled. 3 performance fields. Actually, we probably only need 1. You know, what does our community need? What do our kids need? And how can we put that forward in a way that is benefits our community? So we sought to stay focused on what the district needs and how we can reinvest in a 60-year-old campus to give our whole community another 60 years of growth and success. So we're going to show those plans tonight, get your feedback, answer your questions, continue to move forward to the next steps. So we're going to start with the air quality piece, which will be a standalone project from the improvements to the high school and middle school campus.
Good evening, folks. Thanks for your patience while we had that changeover. Hi, my name is Donald Bresnahan. I'm with an organization called BIMS, Building Infrastructure Management Solutions. I've been working with a lot of colleagues, subject matter experts, including the gentleman to my right, Mr. Steve Ferguson, who's the president of Harris. We've been working on one thing to benefit this community, and there's a lot of great information that I think is being shared tonight. But one of the things I think that I'm excited about, and I hope you are too, is it's going to get cooler in the next couple of days. You, this community, was very fortunate. I'll tell you why. You're the recipient of a Priority 1 SRF, that stands for School Revolving Renovation Fund grant, that addresses indoor air quality and upgrades facilities. The best thing is, it uses other people's money, mostly. It's a funding grant. So, the biggest thing is, we try to resolve some school-related age facilities stuff that's just old. So, like a car, when it gets to be 12 years old, you got to think about upgrading, replacing with something new. And as we know, as we've read in the papers, schools upgrading is expensive, but putting in a new school is really expensive. So the in-between is something called the Revolving Renovation Fund grant. One of the reasons I'm really excited is that This school district, out of 109 applications in the 23-24 application cycle, 109 applications across 172 school districts across the state, finished #1. That was a great effort by our grant writing team, our engineering team, to present to the Maine Department of Education the needs, some of which are kind of technical and will be outlined by Mr. Ferguson, as to why this district in particular was a recipient of $6.5 million of the pool of $28 million of SRF. That's almost 23%. Give you some perspective, folks. This year's program, 24-25, because people always say, we'll delay, we'll put it next year. This year's program for the same type of projects is capped at $200,000 per school district. That's right, you heard it right. This year's program is capped at $200,000 per school district to be applied for by the same 172 school districts. So, why are we excited? Is because in February, we got the notice of award. We put projects out to bid. We've successfully received those bids. We've opened the bids, and we're ready to go. What's contained and why you won the award? Mr. Ferguson's going to help me with that because he's a little bit more techno-geeky than I am. You'll notice that he moved the laptop and I did not. What's the breakdown? The breakdown is the maximum amount that you can receive per school district is $2 million. So the high school and middle school received that $2 million. And the reason that those other two schools received less is because the need was a little bit less. So, but the total grant, and again, it's a funding grant, and Chairman Collins was correct. It's a split of some that is forgiven 100% and some that is financed at 0% over 10 years. For those of us that have financed cars and houses, 0% at 10 years sounds pretty good. So how do we go about our work? What raised our applications over other school districts? Number one, for all those students out there, we read the directions. Number two is we went really invasive. So we put these things, Mr. Ferguson's going to hold up a data logger. We put them in numerous schools in numerous rooms, and we collected data over a long period of time. Every 15 minutes, that data logger collected temperature, humidity, CO2, how much air am I breathing in Mr. Ferguson's, and vice versa. We measured that. Then we actually opened things up. We didn't sit back in an office. We actually, to the picture to the right, we opened stuff up. So now you have to think about it. Is that teacher, that school child, they're breathing air coming in from something that looks like that. Not so great, right? The other reason that the Maine Department of Education is promoting this and why it's essential, I think, for these communities and really would help these communities come together is that Penny had talked about COVID. And you know, you can't really use COVID and good in the same sentence, very difficult. But what came out of that was a new law, statute LD 705, which requires school districts to have adequate ventilation air. Requires. And like many things with our government, an unfunded mandate is not a good thing. And that's why this grant, for this amount of money, is a good thing, because it helps comply with not only codes and guidelines on indoor air quality, but also the new Maine law, LD 705. So now I'm going to turn it over to my friend, Mr. Steve Ferguson, and he's going to talk about overall results in each school and some of the things. Mr. Ferguson.
Thanks. Hey, everybody. As Don said, to measure the ventilation effectiveness in the schools, we use these little guys. These are data loggers. They cost about $550 each. We put somewhere between 40 and 50 of these in your schools over the course of 4 or 5 weeks. And as Don said, it's actually every 10 minutes. This little guy takes a measurement of carbon dioxide temperature across the community. And my professional society, ASHRAE, allows, or rather uses carbon dioxide as an indicator of ventilation effectiveness. So we place these on the walls of the rooms that you see that have a color. And in these graphics, I've used the color to indicate how high the carbon dioxide level got. Green, which you don't see any, is a low level. Yellow is sort of on the borderline. And then red indicates the carbon dioxide has exceeded the levels that are recommended. So this takes a measurement every 10 minutes, and after about 3 or 4 weeks, I take it home and I download this data onto my computer, and this is what it sort of looks like. This is a typical day at the data logger, and you can kind of see the line that I have there. The carbon dioxide is nice and low in the morning hours. Then when the kids get into the school, the carbon dioxide starts to rise. And it typically goes up to about lunchtime, and then it maybe has a little dip, or maybe it doesn't, and then it drops off somewhere around 2:30 or 3 o'clock, depending on when the school lets out. So that's a typical graph. The only thing that's important really in the graph is the height to which it gets. And you can see that this graph is actually very high. It's very far into the red. It's a good situation in that classroom. Yeah, so at Grady Gloucester High School, there are unit ventilators. The high school has several different stages of construction. The first was in the 60s, but the bulk of the school was built in the 70s. And a lot of the systems that were installed then are actually still installed. So those systems are nearly 50 years old. Typically, ASHRAE publishes an anticipated life of these pieces of equipment, and unit ventilator typically has a life of about 20 to 25 years. So you've gotten 50, which is great. The question, though, is how much longer do you expect to get use out of it? And the other thing that's important is that we've measured the ventilation in these rooms, and the things are not ventilated. So we've got 2 things going on. One is the equipment's past its service life, but the other thing is that it really isn't working very well. And the other thing in the high school is we've got air handlers. So we have in the project replacement of unit ventilators, but also replacement of the bulk of the air handlers in the building as well, the ones that are nearly 50 years old. And the last component is controls. We can put this great equipment in, but it's not being controlled properly. It's not going to ventilate properly. So it includes controls throughout the building. Similar situation in the middle school. Middle school is quite a bit newer, but the equipment in there is still 30 years old. And you can see by the graph, we did put the data logger in there as well. And most of the rooms came up red as well. They were in the high CO2 levels. So the project includes, got another graph, just because it's exciting. But similar thing, unit ventilators will all be replaced. Also the controls will be replaced. And the air handlers will be replaced. So we have that soup to nuts. So then on to Memorial. Memorial is a school that has 2 different basic constructions. One is kind of old, and the other one is newer. And what we found with the data loggers is that the ventilation isn't really good anywhere. So the project includes replacement of the equipment in the older section, and installation of new controls in the new and the old sections. So you get new equipment in the older sections. The existing stuff is not so bad in the newer section of the building. We really felt like we could probably refurbish that equipment and it would be fine. So we've got replacement of equipment, new controls throughout, and then I think the gymnasium. Yeah, there it is. The gymnasium gets some air handlers. And the other thing is the library right now has no ventilation in it at all. So we have in the project installation of ventilation in the library. So when it's all said and done, you'll have good controls, you'll have good equipment, and it'll ventilate well. Okay, last is Dunn. Similar situation we found in Dunn, high carbon dioxide levels for ventilation. Another graph. So done, the library also is, it has a ventilation system, but it doesn't work. And I don't honestly know how it ever would have worked. It's not effective right now, so there's a new ventilation system going in the library. And new building controls throughout. And that's it, I'm gonna pass it back to Tom.
So as you can see, numerous schools, numerous measurements, all tell the same story. Old equipment, and when we think about that equipment, you know, the ASHRAE life is typically, depending upon the device, 20 to 25 years. And you've gone beyond that, which is great. That shows consistent maintenance, and as what happens here in Maine quite often, we make things go longer. We hold them together with duct tape and baling wire, right? But we're beyond that point. And so with that, I bring it back to this slide. And I bring this slide back to you because it is an opportunity. It's an opportunity that is a once in a lifetime. We were fortunate, our same grant writing team, to go ahead and win other grants at other districts. I'm pleased to report that in both those districts, this project, this bond project passed by a very, very wide margin, even in some disproportionately poor districts. Again, it's something that brings the community together. It's absolutely the lowest cost for the taxpayer. Use other people's money to pay for the improvements. And the other people's money in this case is the state of Maine. So, a lot of information in a short amount of time, partly because of weather, partly because of what else you have to hear. But maybe when you go home, if you could just take these 6 takeaways, is these are absolutely necessary critical infrastructure projects. Absolutely necessary. There's no frills, there's no thrills. This, besides ventilation, provides the heating air. If it fails, something could happen. A school could close, a wing could close if you don't replace it. The projects are bid and they're shovel ready. So I can't speak for the other projects, and I'm sure are very fine, but these have all been bid out. The contractor is ready to install. We're looking for the community's nod and the board's nod. Again, it's taxpayer focused, and sometimes, you know, people want to say, what's the comparative? What did other districts do? They pass these projects by a very, very wide margin because of the grant, a portion of which is forgiven, and the balance of which is at 0%. Now, in terms of questions, I know that Dr. King would like to leave those to the end, and that's fine. Just so that you know, Steve over here, Mr. Ferguson, we've brought a sheet that has frequently asked questions on it. So in order to facilitate Dr. King's request, you can go ahead and pick up one of these FAQs, and he'd be glad to direct any questions to that. But thank you for your time. Appreciate you sitting in on this. And with that, I'll turn it over to the next presenter.
Good evening, everybody. Everybody's nice and toasty. Steve and Donna, can't wait for the new ventilation. That'll be very nice. My name is Ben Gleason. I'm a landscape architect with Activitas, based out of Massachusetts and Maine. Our office has been working kind of pre-COVID with the Fields Committee on some designs for renovation to all your athletic district at the middle school and the high school. Tonight, we're here kind of as a product to kind of show you where that process has taken us. I'm sure a few of you have seen different iterations of those plans kind of throughout the years, so we're excited to kind of show you how that's evolved. With me tonight also is from WBRC Architects, Mike Johanning, and he's going to talk a little bit about, in depth about some of the building additions as we go through what this bond project proposal is. So just as a reference for everybody, this is just a really quick graphic. We'll kind of skim over it, but this is just an aerial view of the high school and middle school properties. We're currently kind of expanded our whole look to the entire property and really looked at this more as a campus study in terms of what pieces of the athletics, what pieces of circulation, what pieces of kind of drainage patterns, woodland edges, parking lots, and buildings can be manipulated and improved as part of this project. We will circle back to the actual site plan itself, but in terms of the components to this bid project proposal, this bond project proposal, we have kind of 4 components. We have the first component being an auditorium addition proposal to the west side of the high school. There is a gymnasium addition proposal to the east side of the high school. Athletic fields, miscellaneous site improvements to the north side of the high school property, along with some renovations and kind of expansion of athletics into the new wooded parcel. And then some outdoor athletics and miscellaneous site improvements to the actual middle school parcel as well. So the first part of this with Mike, and I'll hand it over to him, is the auditorium addition.
Thanks, Ben. Again, my name is Mike Johanning with WBRC. I lead up our education group that specifically works on K-12 projects for the state of Maine. I also have Jennifer Richard with me tonight. She's part of the education group, and we've worked on multiple projects together throughout the state, and it's been a great opportunity to be here tonight with you, and I appreciate your time this evening. So as Ben said, we're gonna kind of walk through the 2 additions we're looking at for the project, and the first one being the auditorium addition. I'll just jump right into things here. So here's kind of an overall image of the building. There's also one of these on the boards. All these images are on the boards in back. You want to look at them afterwards if you looked at them already. But the idea here is adding on to both sides of the building. Some of that has to do with already proximity to existing space. So on the right-hand side of the gym, adding on to the gym side, the left-hand side, there's already the performing arts kind of and music aspects. Adding this side, so adding on to here makes sense for that aspect of it. The other things to kind of keep in mind with that is adding on with these components on these sides is a lot easier to do while the building is still operating. Rather than trying to come in and completely overhaul the spaces, these kind of additional works are going to take time. We want to make sure the school can still operate while these things are happening. So a general big picture, so the pieces in tan here or addition areas, and what's kind of showing up in there, lighted green or the blue, however it's looking there, is what we're looking at for renovation areas. So when we first started talking to the school department, we brought in some precedent images to look at. These are some images from another school's auditorium. We were looking at a smaller size auditorium. We wanted to right size the auditorium. We had a lot of discussions on how big this auditorium needed to be. We started with some larger size spaces and we really scaled it back with those conversations, knowing that we really wanted to dial in on what was the right size for this school. And looking at things that had durable finishes but aren't over the top, right? So what you're seeing here are pretty basic finishes, but very durable. Things are easy to achieve and not on the high side cost-wise. So with that, I'm going to hand things over to Jen and her walk through some of the specifics of the space.
This is the auditorium addition that we have worked through. We've had meetings with the band and chorus folks, talked about typical performance sizes, how many guests you might have. So right now this is seating for 450. There's the entry area so you can close the rest of your school off during an event after hours so that just this performing auditorium space could be open and used after hours. There's a stage. We measured the existing stage. It's very comparable to what you have existing, except right now you're also having some storage back here. So getting that stage stage to be pulled off, but still in proximity to where it needs to be. There is a new band room that has band instrument storage along the perimeter, so maximizing the flexibility of the space, but allowing students to have the ability to store their instruments right in the space they're using them. We started out with a much larger band space. We talked about the current space. We talked to Sadie. We went back and looked at Power School and the number of kiddos that were taking band pre-COVID. We really analyzed a lot of information to right-size this. So right now, the standard size for 60. I think sort of landed at 60, so it has room for growth. So you won't, build this. I know the band is smaller than that right now, but it gives some growth, but not more growth than what it's traditionally been. We have some practice rooms that are adjacent for smaller ensembles or for space to practice. There's a small gathering space that can be used for larger, if you've got guitar or if you've got drums. It can also be used as a small green room for performances, or if you have one-act plays or things like that, competitions where you have other schools to come, so just some flex space. Bathrooms, if we need more bathrooms, we have more event space. Those are accessed up from the lobby space. And then you go into renovating the existing portion of the school. So once we get into the light blue or kind of green, light blue area, this is renovation space. So what was originally your locker rooms that are band and chorus now would become a scene shop. We've shown a few single-user restrooms in the back of that space that would be used by folks in the field. So if students up there for practice, parents or guests are talking, we'll go through more of the site layout also that includes other outbuildings, so having some bathrooms accessible from those fields. The scene shop, so that folks can build sets and bring them right onto the stage with direct access. And then you have the chorus room, so you really end up with sort of some music suite, not unlike what you have now, but sized appropriately for what is happening. So this band or chorus room is showing some seated risers for chorus. We went through the same exercise of looking at your middle school numbers and the kiddos that are going to come up to the high school that need space for chorus as they get here, and looking at the numbers of new students that participate in chorus. So we right-sized this room. We have a music library here, so high-density storage, so all that sheet music for band and chorus, it takes a lot of room. So just looking at high-density storage that's nearby. And then you have a couple of restrooms that are used for changing and dressing space. It's not adequate for the number of kiddos that are in the theater program. So we've got a space next to it, and originally we had multiple small rooms. We've left this as a flexible room that can be used for costume storage, it can be used for additional changing space, right next to utilizing those existing bathrooms that are already in place. And then we've also included an office suite. We have a couple of spots that are going to be displaced when we start looking at renovations in other areas of the building that you'll see as we start going through some of the floor plans. There's a small office suite in this area as well.
And just to orient folks a little bit, this stage opening you see right here sits right here. So that's actually going to be infilled to kind of give you an idea. We're starting renovations right back of this as we move over. So the other nice thing that we're looking at is a dedicated entrance for the auditorium too. So after hours events, we'll be able to close the wing off from the school. So for after hours events, people can go right in the auditorium. You don't need to worry about them migrating through the school building for those events. Mechanical systems to serve a building, an addition like this, are all going to be housed right above this area right here. So the scene shop, what is the current band room. Nice thing about a mechanical room and a performing arts piece, you'll be able to hold meetings like this in some place that'll be really set up for it. The space will be air conditioned. So again, really having a space that you can really use for these kind of community meetings to help move those along, make them a lot more comfortable for folks coming out. So then kind of moving over to the renovation side of this wing. So what happens with this space as we build out the addition, right? So this space right now is really serving as your cafeteria, your auditorium. It's a multi-use space. I don't know if folks know this, but originally in the original building, this was part of the gymnasium. So this space is serving things that really wasn't intended to originally. So we'll walk through the plan here of how we're looking to renovate this space, but some big pieces just to orient you. So here's the entry doors right now. The thought being is this is going to be the new exit for the cafeteria. We're going to completely open up the wall just on the other side over there to create a new serving access. I'll get into a serving layout here next. And then we'll open up the full wall where you see those 3 doors there, completely open that up so serving can then have better flow into the cafeteria. In addition to bringing in some real daylight here, once we open up this piece here, really bring in some windows and some natural light into this space as well.
So again, this has gone through a lot of iterations and talking about use of space and how much do we leave existing, how can we best use the space that you have. So basically the rest of the wood stage that we're sitting on beyond as well, this will come out, but we'll open up more space on the floor for seating. The idea now is to leave the half wall that you see with the built-in seating, but to really be able to use it as seating. So what you see is a lot of opportunity to get a choice of where students sit. So we are showing a lot more furniture and tables set up than what is currently in place. Adding tables along the bench, so it's kind of cafe seating. We can have some loose chairs around there also. That gives some flexibility on how to set that up, and students can sit on the bench or on tables. Showing some cafeteria tables that have attached seating. You have some rectangular ones that are usually set up here on the stage. Adding some round tables are great for conversation. The attached seating allows facilities to move those tables out and clean up or set up for a dance or anything else they might have going on in here. They move quickly. And then adding some countertop seating, if we're able to add some windows on that exterior wall, you give students power, you give them some daylight. It's a pretty popular setup to be able to sit at the counter. We can make some of these tables high, some of them low, but just giving some flexibility to students. I think that's it.
Yeah, so and just as mentioned here, so as we're looking at renovating this space in here, the leftover space here, again, we're going to create another office suite or potential office space to look at space for programs that are being potentially moved or displaced as we do some renovations throughout the building. So zooming in on the serving area here, so here's that area. This is where it's talking about opening up off the corridor out through here. Here's the current gym, our cafeteria doors right around the corner here. The idea then that this is becoming the exit from the cafeteria. We'll have a new entrance coming into the serving, and then opening up the wall right behind you here for serving and point of sale. The idea being with this is you can see that the current balance of the serving area is right here. And we're going to more than double the amount of serving. So what we're seeing from issues that you have currently is students are coming in here as they try to come in and then meander through the lines through those doors and then come out through the point of sale. It's taking quite a bit of time. And on top of that, they already have limited time for lunch to begin with. So whatever we can do to improve the experience, allow them more options for food, get better options for food, and then more time so they can get through the point of sale and back into here so they have more time to eat. Is a huge benefit for the students throughout the day. So what we're setting up through here is a serving aisle through here, some coolers on the side here. The width here is dramatically improved, so you have a number of students here, and we're creating what they call in this approach kind of a scatter system. Rather than set designated lines, students can kind of go get what they want. They don't have to wait a line specifically, and they can go right up to the point of sale. So there's different opportunities in here for cold foods, if they want to hit salad bar, if they want to hit a deli bar, they can go to that station direct, get what they want, jump out of line, and go to the point of sale, and they're out, and they can start eating their lunch. So a huge benefit for this, for improving what the students will encounter throughout the day, and improving their lunch atmosphere. The other nice thing about this is as we're reviewing this, a lot of the kitchen equipment is in really good shape, so there's not a lot of things that are happening on the kitchen equipment side. We're focusing in on really the serving side and improving the serving. So some things we started to take a look at what the auditorium could look like, right? These are we're at a very early conceptual phase here, and this is an idea and opportunity to get some feedback. So down here at the bottom left is kind of the image of a two-story classroom wing currently. You can see the end of the band rooms back here now. This is the out storage buildings that are back there. So this is where we're going to come off the wing. So and these are very early. We haven't brought in the site work yet that Ben's been working on. We're giving you an idea of how these things and how the massing will work with what's there currently as you kind of look down this sidewalk that's there right now. How the massing finally is resolved, we're still kind of looking at that. But the thought process being mainly we're having this dedicated entrance for the auditorium. Have some glass elements there, maybe look at an opportunity for pulling in some of the school colors, potentially bringing in some blue glass into that, make it give it some highlights, and then look at some opportunities for some different type of materials. You already have some metal panel around certain aspects of the building, and then you have some brick. So pulling in on those and making a dynamic space that says something different's happening here, right? We're just not going to make a big box and have the auditorium sitting here, but really make something that's a little bit more dynamic. And the reality is just alternating these panels a little bit as you go across. This isn't a high cost finish to do this, but it really gives you an opportunity to create some flexibility on the space to give it to give it a little bit more interest visually, and to say maybe arts are happening here, right? So this is a space where you're coming in to see performing arts. And the opportunity for display of art as well. So inside the lobby space, display of artwork, and potentially even ceiling mounted artwork as well. So they're moving along to the other side of the building, over towards the gym. So you can see the outline of where we're looking at the gym. One of the pieces we've been talking about with the project is phasing and how this will happen. Obviously, where the gym sits is a good chunk of parking that's over there. So one of the things that will need to happen as a part of the project, when the first things off, is we'll be needing to create new parking for the students. So that'll be one of the first things that are happening. We're recognizing that we're sitting in the building on some of that area where parking occurs right now. Some of the reasons for this building orientation was to really take advantage of the proximity to the current gym and some of the locker rooms that are already there. So building on that component that's already there, so building the new gym off this direction, but then also recognizing that these locker rooms that we're building over here need direct access onto the fields, from the fields. So when you have football or any type of games going on, those players, if they need to use locker rooms, can come directly in and come into the new locker rooms. So that's some of the reasoning behind the layout of the building the way it is. So again, some kind of precedent images there. I'm sure you've all been to basketball games here. You realize how tight the sidelines are there on the courts, right? I mean, the bleachers are right on top of the sidelines. So looking at base requirements for NFHS for their requirements for basketball courts. This is the gymnasium at Hampton Academy. There's really no frills here, right? This is really just setting up required court dimensions, making sure you have space for players, and making sure you have seating in place for your visitors. Not a real high frill space, but something that meets all of your needs and looks good at the same time. So again, I'm just going to kind of orient folks. So here's the existing gym. Here's the existing bathroom bank through here, existing lobby, and your current entrance to the gymnasium in the back here is right in here. And I'll let Jennifer walk through the rest of the plan.
So part of what we need to consider is how we let folks know that there is an entrance here, right? We've got this new gymnasium, but people are parking to the side and maybe to the back. So we do have a new vestibule. We can talk about whether we can have some lettering or graphics, or if that's lots of glass, just to have entry so folks know where to enter the building. Not always easy when you're coming for a winter basketball game. So we'll talk about some kind of identifying factor to get into the building. We have connected the new lobby as you're coming to get to the new gym to the existing. So this is basically your existing lobby outside of the current gym. Creating a little bit of dedicated storage. When you go in that lobby right now, there are things, there's a lift, there's tables, there's things that you store there. So get that behind some closed walls and doors. Reintroducing the display. There's lots of trophies and things on display there, so we want to make sure we have lots of space for that. We'll be able to still use the existing bank bathrooms if we need to access those during games, if there are multiple things going on at once, but also adding more bathrooms because we'll have more seating with an extra gym. When there are gyms, people will come, so it is possible you have multiple things going on at a time. Relocating concessions, so there are some thoughts about what the existing concessions could be used for. That's not going away, but adding concessions locations near the gym so that we know kiddos that want to go and get something at halftime, they can. So this is the new concessions here. This area here is renovations, so we would have one of the new locker rooms be in a part of the existing building. It would be renovated. These are football-sized lockers, so they'd be large. With 2 locker rooms that are the same, that way they're the same for home or visitors. Football has a lot of equipment, which is also got field hockey, tennis rackets, there's lots of gear, lacrosse sticks, lots of gear that's big. So we have 2 locker rooms that are essentially the same. There's toileting and shower facilities along with all of the lockers. There's lockers shown right now for 50. In each of these would be team locker rooms. The existing locker rooms would be renovated and stay in place for PE lockers. So you'd still have locker rooms out from the existing gym that you have now. Adding a couple of coaches' rooms, we have a non-gendered restrooms that can be used for officials or if you have students that just don't feel comfortable in the main larger locker rooms. Next to that, we have an officials room where there's locker storage and a changing area, which is also great if you have staff that ride their bikes to work or just need another facility with a shower in it. A training room. So these facilities are anchored by each of the gyms on either side. Centrally located. We have some storage. We have an entrance off from the back side, which could be great for officials coming and going. This portion of the building, there is a wire corridor here just because we're getting a new building next to existing, so we have to have some space between the buildings for snow drift. It's going up a high roof onto another roof. And this would also allow us to have a low area over the new locker room where we put mechanical equipment to ventilate properly those locker rooms in the gym space. We can have that on the roof. And then we have the gym. And the gym, we've really worked hard to right size. We actually have brought this down from initial design work where we really are trying to right size. We have seating right now showing bleachers for 700. We have 350 on each side. And we pretty much, I think these are really right down to the NFHS sidelines. So it's really the space needed to get that basketball size court in here. There is also the potential that you took your existing striping on your existing court and you can put 2 practice courts side by side. So if you want to have it striped and painted to have 2 practice courts with a curtain between, we also have room to do that in addition to the standard court paint.
And I think that really kind of hits the nail on the head, right? And really the flexibility that Jen has mentioned with those courts. So we have a divider curtain down to the court here. So during the school day for PE, the amount of flexibility you have for running PE programs in the existing gym and this gym help again with flexibility of schedules. And then at the same time, when you come to practices, you don't have to worry about the boys and girls varsity teams and who's practicing when. You can just alternate between spaces. You can have multiple practices happening at the same time. So huge scheduling plus all around. Again, creating between the 2 ends of the building, creating another community assets really. These are spaces that are going to help the schools, but just think of the possibilities here for the community at large for things that can happen in either of these spaces outside of school hours. And then what does this look like, right? So again, this is our first first approach rendering at what this volume would look like. Really, I want to give you an idea for the scale of this in relationship to the school building. So the bottom left here is the existing school, the classroom wing towards the end. You can see the shop space over in the back. So in the proposed, here's the classroom wing, and the scale of this is really being set up based on height requirements for gym, but also volleyball. Making sure you have those overhead height structural clearances in place so you meet the requirements for those sports. But then that's also at the same time giving something that, as you're going past this drive, looks attractive. So people are coming to events, say, okay, there's the gymnasium, that's where we need to go. Making sure we get an opportunity to pull some glass into this space as well. I don't want to have translucent glass or probably something that's frosted so it's not interfering with folks shooting foul shots or anything like that. But then at the same time introducing potentially some nice roof overhangs to provide some shading there in the summer, so eliminating some of that heat gain you have from the sun. We would be having more mechanicals in this area and climate control in this space with wood floors of this scale. And it's really nice to have climate control in there to help with that space in addition to helping when you have events going on in evenings like this. Turn things back over then.
So in terms of the updated site plan, of this, kind of in the beginning, has been a response to the additions, the proposed additions to the size of the building. So as we go through some of the changes here, I'll start to kind of outline where some of the program pieces have been shifted that you currently have, some new pieces of program, new parking, new circulation, and the likes kind of around the entire campus. Before I go to the next slide, I'm going to zoom into the high school area specifically. Number 6 on the very bottom here is over at the middle school. Part of the renovations would be to amend that soil, resod it, re-irrigate it, new grading to really get better drainage out there down that lower bowl. Some modest improvements to the backstop of the softball field. So not forgetting about the middle school with all the high school improvements we have. Wanting to kind of think about this as a kind of campus-wide project. As we zoom into the high school, you'll immediately notice kind of central to the entire kind of district, we'll call it, is a new singular synthetic turf field, kind of your main competition field. Right now, your existing field and bleachers are in this general vicinity, but they're actually located a little bit further up towards your property line. As part of this project, we look to actually slide that down a little bit closer to the back of the school, creating a little bit better accessibility to that space, and actually flipping your existing grandstand to the western sideline. So I think anybody who kind of attends those kind of afternoon games knows that the sun is setting right in your eyes. We want to kind of right-size that. You have a really nice orientation north and south almost right now, so we want to try to maintain that. And being kind of the center of that athletic district seems to make a lot of sense to kind of right-size that synthetic turf field to be a full-size soccer pitch with kind of your minimum safety zones around the outsides, and then really kind of locate that pedestrian spectator area to the center of that quad area. We're showing some new visitor side bleachers too, some modest kind of semi-portable bleachers, really to start to help you with separation of visitor and home spectators. Gives you some flexibility in terms of all the different programming that you want to have out there, and really starts to help kind of clean up that promenade between the track and that main field. As we slide over to the track, you'll notice a couple differences. So right now, the inside of your track is all grass. As part of the addition of the gym, and then a new configuration of the campus drive that goes around the backside of that, we're starting to impede some of the kind of conflicts with some of the high jump, some of the other jump and throw events. So as a response to that, to create a little bit nicer venue for a track-specific venue, we pushed the high jump into this, we call these the D areas, the southern D area, and we've actually relocated all of your long triple jumps and pole vaults to the northern D area. Part of the renovations to that field will be regrading, taking out those giant area drains that are on the sidelines and really expanding out the amount of play space you have out there, putting a new channel drain between the field and the actual track itself, and not doing any improvements to the actual oval itself. We know that was resurfaced not too long ago. It's in really good shape, so really just some minor repairs and maintaining what's there, keeping it all within the oval. As we look to the north, because we were able to move that main stadium field closer to the school, it really opens us up to a really large swath of multi-purpose fields to the north. Right now, you have kind of your one kind of practice field that gets beat up pretty badly out there. We look at regrading this, amending the soil again with sand, really trying to get a better profile for drainage out there. You can see it's sized for a full-size soccer pitch, along with a kind of short-sided 6v6 soccer pitch as well. So there's a ton of flexibility out there to line for competition sports, whether that be JV, freshman, it could be varsity sport if you needed it to be, and line it in different ways for practices. This also gives you a lot of space for lining javelin throws and kind of locating your discus cage to that northeast side throwing out. So one really large, expansive, flexible, multi-purpose field. As we move to the west, you'll see that softball has now been kind of reoriented. Right now, if you go out there, your softball and baseball fields are really in not great orientations. There's a nice multi-purpose effect that we have out there, especially in the springtime, where you can kind of have both of those venues playing next to each other, but we start to lose a lot of usage of that outfield for some of your rectangular sports. So this plan starts to pull baseball and softball into their own venues in the spring. and really opens up your other rectangular fields for all those other multi-purpose activities. Softball, again, is now oriented north-south. They have their own specific field. Likewise with baseball, full-size baseball, and then can support full-size soccer pitch in the outfield for fall activities. New parking has been pulled back. I have a slide that will look a little bit more about some of the new circulation patterns and parking lots around the school. But number 6 here kind of shows where a new extension of your campus drive takes you back to that area of the site by baseball and softball, and gives better drop-off locations, about 60 parking spots back there, really specific to those uses, and gets you a little bit deeper into the campus without having to walk as far. Number 4 is, again, size. It's a multi-purpose natural grass kind of leftover space right in the middle of your campus here. And we're kind of treating this as your kind of athletic squad, where you could use this for PE, you could use it for practices. It's sized for like a short-sided soccer pitch, like a 6v6 kind of size field. So again, a ton of flexibility with this leftover space. We thought best to try to find as much programs we put out there as we're doing it. What's also great about this is that you start to create these really nice pathways to kind of cut in and around all the different programs. Somewhere in that vicinity, we're currently showing a new concessions building. Right now, closer to the parking lot, there's a lot of flexibility in terms of where that finally goes. But a new concessions building, concessions, kitchen, bathrooms, all the lights that would support the center of all of your activity. We're also showing some improvements to your existing concessions building over by track. So now there'll be some modest improvements to that as well, just so that you have something over that side of the facility if you had multiple events going on at once. I will also add that this field at number 4 is kind of in a perfect location for reconstruction of the school's septic field. So your current septic field is very, very aged, ready to be replaced. That seems to be an opportune location to kind of rebuild in place. It's in close proximity to the concessions building, which we should have a very easy septic connection to. I think there's a lot of pros to have that location for that field. In terms of parking on the backside, we're currently showing in total, I told you about the 60 extra parking spaces in 6. If we kind of circle around the rest of the site, you'll see that we have about close to 190 new spaces proposed for the entire campus. A pretty big improvement to what you currently see out there with your events right now. We're maintaining your current main line of travel for vehicles. The yellow dots kind of designate that pathway around the school, but it really comes in from Libby Hill, circulates around the new gym, takes you down the backside and then back to that 60 car parking space in the back, with a few different pockets of parking kind of surrounding the spaces. The pink lines start to designate all of your main pedestrian throughways, so you start to see we're still maintaining that really nice kind of promenade between the track and the main stadium. We have a new one that's kind of introduced on the west side of the main stadium, and then some of your meandering paths that start to tie you into all the different program pieces. Off to the east, you can see the connection from the crosswalk at Route 26 into the site for a safe route to school, into the parking lot, into the school easily. I think that wraps up that.
Okay, Ben, meeting time with us. So just real quickly, I want to go through, we've had been looking at this from a cost point of view. We've been getting information back from we have a third-party cost estimator that we use to really dial into the numbers, make sure we're getting good numbers before we put anything out to referendum. So here's where we're at and what we're looking at for cost, and we've kind of broken these up following the state of Maine template for school project budget. So there's a Part A for construction, Part B for administrative costs and reserves, and then Part C for fees and services. At the construction line, this all includes what we're looking at for the gym addition, the auditorium addition. We will have to do some sprinkler renovations as part of this building. The building has no sprinkler system. With the renovations to this side, we will have to sprinkle this building. boiler replacements and upgrades to support the additions, and then what Ben just went through for the site development athletic fields. And that cost right now is coming in at about 43.8 million. Administrative costs, there's a lot of equipment that goes into kind of outfitting additions like this, including some of the food service equipment that's a part of that. The school department has some costs for insurance and legal, and then we're also carrying some contingencies here, right? So the last thing we want to do is put a project together like this. So we have design contingency in place, because we're still pretty early on in the process. Bid contingency, so that we go out to bid, so we have some flexibility there depending on what the bid climate is like. And then also construction contingencies. A big part of this is some renovation work, so we want to make sure we have contingencies in place for anything that we could open up during construction. And that's coming in at about $8 million. Fees and services, so design fees for home consultants that we're working with, as well as WBRC and Activitas. We'll have consultants associated with acoustics and what's going to the outfitting of the auditorium, surveyors, permitting, a good part of DEP permitting will be involved. It's going to take a chunk of time. Geotechnical construction, and then owners representatives, so we can have owners rep out here while construction's going on. And that's coming in at just over almost $6 million. For a total project cost, we're looking at $57.7 million. And with that, I'm going to move things along.
Sorry, these are my glasses.
Thanks everybody. For people who don't know me, I'm Sam Feifel. I was the chair of the school board for the last 4 years, and before that, I had 5 years before that, and entering, just starting my 4th term now. So I think in the room, I'm the one with the most institutional memory and have taken the most public meetings. So they made me talk about the money. And you know, it is what it is. One of the things I want to say before we start getting into the dollars and cents is that, you know, it's been a really long process. And when we talk about it being a long process, it's not to try to make you guys feel sympathy for us. It's to try to emphasize that we did our best to identify the needs, convene a committee to analyze those needs. There's been many building walks. There's been many meetings of the public. And we've tried to match what the needs are called for in that report with facilities that are appropriate, right? All along the way, there's been a couple different times where even someone like myself has said, well, why don't we just pick a number and see what we can get, right? And I got a lot of pushback on that, and eventually I agreed that that's not what we're trying to do here. What we're trying to do is identify what is the facility that suits the needs of our children and meets the promises that we made to them, right? Meets the strategic plan. Is in line with what we've been doing for the past 10 years and outlines a plan for the next 3. And so we are now at the end of that process and we have a number, right? We have a number kind of in our head, but you know, this is the first time that we've shown that specific breakdown on purpose. And I know that people are going to ask, so I'm just going to preempt and say that it's not quite this cut and dry, because when you pull out a piece, right, you sometimes don't lose a commensurate amount of planning or a commensurate amount of site or whatever, right? Sometimes you get a little extra bonus for your scale. So when I say that like the gym costs X, that's a round number, right? It's not that exact number. And so when we kind of figure out, you know, what each piece costs, again, give me some error bars on it, but in general, the gym and those renovations on that side is about 12 million. The auditorium and all of the, arts and that sort of cafeteria stuff is about 15 million. And then the site development for the fields is about another 15 million. Right, so those are kind of the three big pieces that make up that 43 million of construction costs. Now, yes, there will be a little bit less of administrative costs in reserve, there will be a little bit less of engineering, there will be a little bit less of the consultant's fees if we were to pull out one piece, but it's not like Legos where you can just be like, okay, this costs this much, right? So just bear with us. When we decide to do something that's not this whole thing, don't hold me to that 14 million, it's exactly that, right? So there's a little bit of wiggle there. Just really quickly, for people who haven't seen this before, I want to go through, kind of where we are. School was built in 1962. One of the things I want to point out is at the time, we had boys soccer, field hockey, track, and baseball. That's it. That's the only outdoor sports program we offered in 1962. Right? Since then, we've added soccer, boys and girls lacrosse, softball, football, ultimate frisbee. We actually had unified bocce out there. I saw them do it. We had kids having a great time, like 20, 30 kids playing bocce. It was amazing. But it's basically still the same layout that we had in 1962. So you can see we're trying to stuff a lot in a small bag. 1989 is when we put in that lower bowl. 1998 is when we did done. That cost 3.1 million. 2007-8 is when this whole thing happened, and the gym got turned into this, and we eliminated some of the indoor practice space. We had the ox gym. In 2013, one thing I want to point out is we spent what was a deal, and still remains an amazing steal, $80,000 to get 28 acres of land behind the school. We've never used it, right? When we bought it, it was, if you remember 2014 and 2016, we had field expansion plans that ultimately the community decided they didn't want. But we still have the land, and that $8,000 pie, is still something that we want to take advantage of. 2014 was our last serious capital project, and that's when we added the 4 rooms to the middle school. We upgraded our chemistry facilities. The chemistry lab in 2016 was basically the same thing from like 1975, right? The technology's come a little way. We finally caught up to that. And I just do want to point out that, this is not the first bond committee we have put together. I remember when Dan Cobb led a committee of 11 people to try to figure out this fields plan 8 years ago. I thought it was really good work then. I still think it's good work. I still think we need this facility. And I think that we've only added more sports since then. Just 2019, that track, one of the reasons you heard that we're not going to really do much with it is we used our capital improvement funds to fix that. We have had some overuse spends, right? So I just put that in there to let you know that kids are going to play, and we're going to try to put as many out there as possible. And if we have a drought and we lose a field, it costs money to fix it. And also just we do take advantage of a lot of federal money and grants. We upgraded a lot of our technology infrastructure using a big security grant from the U.S. government. The 2 pieces that we didn't even talk about because they're not part of the bond project because we have federal and state funding for them is we have a project that's going to go through that's going to connect our right-of-way to a crosswalk and lights across Route 26, which will give kids walking access over to those developments that are across 26. And we also have another grant that just went through that'll give us a new crosswalk over at the middle school. So when you cross from the kind of high school side of the road to the middle school side, new crosswalk and new lighting. So we're really thinking about it as a campus. We know and we see that our kids are walking all around the campus. We want to make sure it's safe. And we've done as much as we can to try to leverage federal and state dollars to help us do that. I want to point out that we do also use a lot of community funding. The greenhouse that people have seen out there is an amazing asset. That was largely due to donations by a community member at Cranston International. Connie Justice and her team have been really generous with our district. So it's, it's not just one set of revenue. And we also want to point out, used a lot of the federal COVID money we did an HVAC wing here in the high school that's making the project a little bit cheaper going forward. We put in a new outdoor basketball court. We've picked away at some of these things that we've come up with over the years. And also, we have really not borrowed very much, right? I know everybody has different philosophies on bonding, but my personal philosophy is that, if it's going to be for a project that benefits us for 30 years, it makes sense to, pay for it over 30 years rather than have just today's taxpayers pay for that 30-year benefit. Also gives us, keeps us away from having these big giant budget fluctuations. But in general, this is the research I could do. I think we probably did some borrowing before 1998. I just don't know. I can't put my hands on it. Relatively small borrowing. Current debt is only 1.6% of our budget, and the average statewide debt service of the budget is 5.42%. So we're much below where a lot of our peers are. Okay, we're going to get into some big numbers here, so I want everybody to gird themselves. All right. All it is what things cost, right? We are not necessarily saying this is good, bad, ugly. It is just, you've seen the plans, this is what it costs, this is how we would pay for it. Right now, you can see that our debt service goes away to like a really low number, right around 28, 29. Right? So one thing that we're sort of thinking of is you don't have to start making those payments for about a year and a half after you actually issue those bonds. We think if we use some capital money and the time frame allotted to us, we can probably start new payments right around when some of these payments sunset. But I'm going to show you some numbers that are just, not with any of the creative money moving around or anything, right? Basically, I'm going to show you the worst case scenario, right? I'm not trying to put any pretty spin on any of this, because I do think there's a lot of ways that we can get creative and make it so the initial sort of pain is not as high as it's going to appear. But this is, I want the community to see all the costs. So the HVAC bonds, right? There's two pieces that we would need to finance. They give us a piece for free. They give us a piece at 0% interest, and then we have to borrow the rest at normal rates. They give us a mandatory limit of 10 years for the first part. They give us a mandatory limit of 15 years for the second part. That's what I have inserted here. These are, again, you put these into a mortgage calculator, it's going to give you slightly different numbers because the way that bonds are issued, you don't pay them back like a mortgage. You pay back the principal in an even amount per year, and then you only pay interest on what's left. Right? So it's not the thing where you pay like a little tiny amount of principal and then a ton at the end. You actually pay a steady amount of principal. So your debt obligation actually sort of graphs down like this. I am not a banking professional. We would go out to bids to bond issuers, usually means Evergreen Credit Union. These are really ballpark numbers. I'm not saying that they're shiny. I think these are probably, again, basically, if we're getting, hey, you just walked in the door rate, I think we can do better. But this is, the average total interest for municipal bonds right now. So obviously it's $340K for the part we don't pay interest. It's about $210K for the second half, right? So that's over 10, 15 years. You only have to pay the last 5 years of that HVAC part 2 once the first 10 years has gone up. Okay, if we take the highest possible estimate, all of the things that you've seen, it's about $58 million. For this large of a bond, the state says that we're allowed to borrow over 30 years. We might not decide to do that. We would have to look at competitive rates. What's the rate of 20 years, 25 years, 30 years? We haven't done those sorts of calculations. I just took 30 years at 3.25% rate. We have about a $3 million average annual payment. Again, it would start higher. Actually, the first year would probably be like $4.2 million. But it would come down by the end of that to 2.2, 2.1 million, right? So I use a ballpark number. We're not going to have final numbers, but I'm just saying on camera so everybody can hear the first 2 numbers, first 2 or 3 years might be larger, then it goes off. we're gonna try to do things like use our capital reserve and that sort of things to try to mitigate that pain. So the average annual payment in the first 10 years would be something like $4 million with everything together. We've got the HVAC, we've got the fields, everything that we would need to borrow. I would say that it's, again, looking at the numbers, it's going to be around 10 million a year. It's a big number. I'm not telling you it's not a big number. It's about 12% of our budget. Right? So I did just a little bit of research. You can go on the state website, and they have, what they have everybody's budget in the whole state broken down, and they ask you what percentage of your budget is debt. This would be over the average of 5, but people who have done big new projects, Auburn is 14.85. Brewer is 12.98, Ellsworth is 10%, right? So this would not be wildly out of character, right? If you have 12% to our little 1.4, we're maybe around 13%. I think that's, only in the first few years, and then I think it would come down to a smaller percentage as we go on. Okay, so again, I'm using the 24 tax bill, right? You have to remember that our town grows right now. I think I saw in the last report that we've added 258 residential houses in the last 5 years. Maybe it was 10 years, I think it was 5 years. That grows our tax base, right? So, each year, if we are a growing town, theoretically, we pay a little bit less each, right? Again, these are sort of ballpark figures. I ran that $4 million average payment, right? You have to remember that Greg pays 66% of the school bill, and Gloucester pays 33%. So I said, okay, the raw dollars is about 2.64 and 1.36. I ran that through the bill rate calculator based on what our bill rate is, based on our tax bill right now. That's the effect on the bill rate. That you can see is 2.2 for Gray, about 1.79 for Gloucester. Really ballpark, right? I don't know, 7-10% error bars on this, but it's pretty good. That would mean an annual responsibility for the whole shebang on the average. 350K is the median home, so half our homes are valued less than that, half of them are valued higher than that. I get that from the town. I don't know that to be true. I'm assuming they're telling us the right thing. Maybe it's 355 is the median. I don't know. Nice round number. If you do the math on it, 350K, this would be all in, full boat, about $770, right? And again, that's about 3 times the budget increase we saw this year. It's a large number, right? I'm not saying it's not. We don't want to be transparent, right? And so if you want to do, this is back of the envelope, again, error bars, right? But if you want to think about what your stomach is for investment, right? Every $1 million that we borrow over a 30-year lifespan turns into about $10 to $12 a year on that 350K home tax bill, right? So, if you borrow, what we're doing, $58 million, or it's 64 with everything tacked on the HVAC. You get about $770 in annual tax bill. Right? Again, super ballpark, back of the envelope stuff. I encourage everybody to think about, the plans that you've seen, the bang for the buck that we've delivered with these drawings. Again, we didn't start out with a number. We started out with a set of requirements. Those set of requirements started out with our strategic plan document, which included 40 focus groups with kids, with teachers, with staff members, with members of the community. We've done listening sessions. We had a whole bond committee that met a number of times and toured the buildings and talked and issued a report. The report's like 30 pages, Penny, whatever it is. Go read it. It's on our website. It says, hey, this is what we think we need to deliver the promise that we've made to our students, right? Our mission is to prepare kids for the next step, whatever that next step might be. And that's every building, right? So our elementary schools are tasked with prepping those kids to get into Dunn, to get into middle school, to get into high school, and then go be successful people when they leave our buildings, whether they go to the military, or they go into HVAC repair, or they go to a community college, or they go to a university, or whatever they want to do. What we're trying to do is prepare them for that next step, and we think these plans deliver on that promise. It's not cheap, right? So we are, I think that's the last slide. We're into the question and answer period. Again, we might not have every answer. We have another one of these coming up on the 22nd. We have a school board meeting that's a week from today. That'll be a live broadcast where the school board will talk about all of this information in public. We have always held as our sort of guiding principle here that we're not going to make any decisions before we have to. But we're starting to get to the point where we've got a lot of information and we need to start making some decisions and start turning this into reality. So that's why we're here, and I'm happy. Penny is also with us. We have the architectural team, happy to answer any questions. Mike, you look very eager. Newly ensconced Town Councilor Mike Johnston.
Thank you. I apologize, but I haven't seen my son in a few months, and we're picking him up at the airport in an hour, so I'm going to make this real quick. Luckily for you guys. Hey guys, thank you so much for doing this in the first place. I know it's a lot of work. You're never going to make everybody happy. A few comments that I wanted to make real quick is that, please don't include this in the rest of the bond. Please make this a separate issue. This is very...
By this, you're holding up the HVAC information.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, yeah. I think this is important. I think this is a great deal. It's something that we need to do. If we try to include this with the rest of it, we're doing our students a disservice.
And I can answer that question right away. Because of the nature of those bonds, them having to be 10 and 15 years and different interest rates and that sort of thing, they will 100% definitely be their own separate questions.
Perfect, awesome. A few comments that I did want to make. A lot of times, especially being on the community, I get these comments all the time too. Well, Yarmouth does this, Yarmouth does that. And so I do want to bring up Yarmouth and Cumberland and all those. They do have beautiful fields, they do have things like this. But one of the things that I did notice is that they did go out and get donations as well. And I don't know if we've tried that or done that, but I strongly recommend that you do that. I also am going to strongly recommend that you guys separate these. I do think there are needs that there are some things that we do need. I do feel like some of the fields can be improved. I don't believe in turf. I think we're going to take out a 30-year bond on a turf field that 10, 15, maybe 20 years. So I think that, there are needs out there. I think bundling these is not it's gonna do the same thing that happened last time. So if we really want some of these things to pass, I think we need to separate them and make a point of that. For some of us, that's not $770, it's $2,100. $2,100 over 30 years is over $60,000. If you take that money that I could have invested, you're asking me to pay $250,000. I think that's a lot of money. I think that at the end of the day, there are things that we want and that would be really great. We just went through the process of buying a new vehicle for my wife, and she wrote down a list of everything that she wanted. We went and looked at a multitude of vehicles, and we wound up really wanting the Volvo. She's driving a brand new RAV4. The Volvo was double the price. And, I think that, what you've got up here is good. I just think, I look at things kind of like what you mentioned earlier, Sam. I look at them from the sense of, okay, I'm going to give you guys $20 million. Go do what you can with $20 million. I don't think this town has an appetite for $60 million. I think there's a lot of things that this town, the board wants to do. So we're trying to, it's not just this. I think that with COVID, you guys brought that up earlier, Penny, COVID has changed a lot of things. I don't necessarily think we're going to have classrooms in 20 years. So we're still going to be paying on bonds that may or may not be here. So I just want you guys to consider that. Hopefully you guys can make a good recommendation. I hope that you guys can divide some of this stuff up because I feel like that you're asking for too much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Questions?
I have a question for the architects, and it has to do with the saddle of the roofs. I noticed that you have peak roofs that you're proposing, and after taking a tour of the Gloucester and taking a look at what happens with a peak roof here during the wintertime, and with all those barriers to keep the snow from hitting people and all that kind of stuff, why hasn't like a Quonset type roof been discussed, and how can we take a look at that? Second question I have is about the parking. So I'm a little confused. If we have, let's see, seating for 460 people, and the band 60, right? 700 bleachers, parking of 190 parking spaces. I'm not sure that adds up. You know, assuming that 2 people per car, we come to an event, it doesn't mean there's only one event going on at a time. There could be different events going on at a time, so there's a lot of cars that would be coming. And I'm not sure that's enough parking, so you need to correct that for me. And then the other thing is just a second, please. Cafeteria, I'm sorry. On the see, I thought we'd be going through the slides and then we could point out, but on the cafeteria side of it, where are they putting their backpacks? And how have all these designs changed from the last presentation you gave to the school board? So I don't notice that there's been much of a change. So I'm not looking for details, I'm just looking for overall. But the question about the backpacks bothers me with the new cafeteria setup and where they're coming in and out. Oh, and I forgot, that's the other one I wanted. Route 26, you were having 2 entrances and exits in these plans. I don't think I've seen that. So those are my questions.
Okay, I'm going to go to the cafeteria piece first. As far as the cafeteria layout goes, when we were here doing some of our reviews, we did see a lot of students coming in with backpacks. That's not to say that's not happening, because we were just here on a couple of days doing an observation. If there's definitely plenty of room, if we needed to add some storage for students to put their backpacks inside of the layout we're doing in here, there's definitely plenty of room where we can add something to address that. So I think that's something that definitely could be included in the plan. As far as the roof goes, to jump back to your question on the roof, reality is those are some of our initial concepts, and believe me, I do want feedback on the renderings that we put up. Those are kind of our initial concepts. If we wanted to move to a different type of roof or a different style of roof, really that's a conversation I want to have with the facilities folks. What we showed there with the sloped roof, we were definitely taking into account the standoff distances, because you do have snow coming off those roofs, right? So you don't want necessarily having walkways right up against the building in that situation. You want to have space where snow can come off the roof and not cause any issues. So where we'd be looking at sloped roofs in that direction, where we're planning to use that, we definitely make sure we have standoff space so the snow can come off the roof. In addition to any snow guards we've used to hold anything in place while we could. As far as the questions, I'll hand things to Ben as far as some slight questions.
In terms of the parking, so that 190 figure is actually a net add to your campus. We can come back and give you some rough numbers as to what the rest of the campus, street parking, kind of the accumulation, even to the middle school would be for the entire campus. But that 190 is kind of a net add that you don't have now.
So it's 190 more, not 190 total. And also, so we'll just, that's a parking lot question, we'll make sure we know what the parking for the campus is the next time we present. Other questions?
Hello, I'm Carol Clark, and I teach instrumental music here at Greater Gloucester High School. First of all, I would like to thank all of you for this tremendous amount of work that you have dedicated to this project. And I really look forward to our future here at the high school with the performance space that our students need. The second point I would like to make is in regards to a memorial that we have out back. It is in the walkway between the field, the track, and the football field, and it's dedicated to current Commander Robert Schlegel, who was killed at the Pentagon on 9/11. I'd like to ask that this memorial be maintained where it is or enhanced as a focal point as people come onto the athletic campus. Commander Schlegel's story is very, very important to the culture in our communities and in our schools. And every fall, you'll see me out there teaching our students his story. Thank you.
Judy Semino, I just had a couple of questions. The first one was about the air quality. I understand how important it is about the quality of the air for the school, but I was confused about the $6.5 million grant. So what is the total cost of that? Is it $28 million? Did I catch that? What is it?
So the total cost is So there's a $6.5 million grant, right?
Yeah.
That grant is in two pieces. One is like 3.1 million of totally forgivable money. And then there's this piece that you see that's the 0% interest, which is 3.4. And then there's the rest of the project, right, that would address all of the schools, you know, because as you saw, 2 of the schools were capped at $2 million, so the high school needs more than $2 million. So then the rest, we have to borrow at normal rates, so it's the 2.5 plus the 3.4 plus the 3.1.
All right, so you're looking at 46, $9 million?
Right.
$9 million.
Right, and then, so the portion that local taxpayers get is that 2/3.
Okay, is that included in the $60 million bond?
That part is an additional, it's these three pieces. Yeah. So when I'm talking about the all-in number here, that includes all of the bonds, right? But so it's three pieces. It's a 3.4 at 0%, at 2.5 at 3.25%, and then 58 million at 3.25%. And the biggest potential. Right, so again, how things go in front of the voters yet, this is everything you've seen tonight. Just giving people a feel for what the total largest possible can be.
So you're looking for like $69 million in bonds, and then the town is looking for like a 30.
No. So like I said, right, it's 58.
36 million.
58
66.
plus 2.5, right, so that's 60.5, and then plus 3.4 gets you to 64.
64 million. Right, so 64 million. Now the town is also looking to do a $30 million bond for the renovation downtown. So this is talking, now we're talking like 64 million.
Right, but I do want to keep the conversation and questions to this project because we don't have influence on the town
I know you
on
don't,
that
but people need to be aware of what's coming up, because if they
Right,
approve this.
I understand that, but this is, the purpose of this is to get our questions answered about what we've done here.
Right, okay.
And there will be tons of conversation, but I just want to make time for people who have questions about the material.
Okay. All right, and when is this going to actually be voted on? Is it in November along with the ballot?
We do not have a date set for that yet. We have the meeting tonight, we have a meeting next week. We have information from both towns, clerks, and then we have a board meeting on July 24th, where we're agenda item to discuss and select next steps, including, what would be the appropriate date.
Okay, because as a taxpayer, I would prefer that it be included with the vote in November.
I'll capture that.
Okay, thank you so much.
Good evening, Rick Light. First, I want to say thanks to all the people who worked on for so many years. It's an incredible asset to have so many dedicated people who just stick with it through the thick and the thin. So thank you to all you that are here and aren't here. Quick question, 2 questions. Are we applying for or eligible for, typically on a school project, which I've done many of, there's state eligibility for state DOE for funding. Is any of this at all eligible for state funding, Department of Education funding for schools?
So we don't think so. So obviously the HVAC is, right? That's
besides
the right? So that's the revolving renovation fund. There are some funds available. They're mostly going right now to new school projects. What we've been told is that there's a very long list, right? We can apply. It's not that they're ineligible, but it's unlikely given what the priorities of the Department of Education are right now. And what they've told us is that they're looking for new school projects that consolidate old schools, right? So they want to buy new schools that take 2 and make them into 1. So what we're doing is trying to maintain our assets. And so we would probably be lower down the list as the advice we got.
Okay, understood. Okay. Number 2, and I might know the answer to this, and Sadie might have it. You mentioned the crosswalks, which are extremely important. Former bike ped member, we've been pushing for sidewalks on Libby Hill for decades. Is the sidewalk on Libby Hill, I know the council has that, it was going to be in this year's budget. They got the Susan Collins money, hopefully next year's budget. Is that a separate item, and the town's going to take that project on?
Yes. Right, so we got that money in the most recent federal budget, and that was applied for by the town, and we were sort of like, we chipped in $50,000 in goodwill money, saying that we'll contribute that towards the engineering documents, and we won that award, and so that's happening no matter what happens with any of this. So that improvement is going forward. It's about, I think it's at 1.7 million, something like that.
So that would be basically a separate project, but coordinated with the work you're
Right,
doing.
and so one of the reasons, best case scenario, I'm not saying that the money is not a factor. One of the contributing factors to trying to do this all at once is that we have the opportunity to attack the campus once, right? Put in all those sidewalks, do that crosswalk over to 26, and then do all the field work in the summer of 2025. That would be really efficient in terms of earth moving and getting roads in there for big trucks and all that kind of stuff. So that is definitely one of the contributing factors, is we'd love to be able to do that all at once.
Okay, thank you.
Craig King, Superintendent. I just wanted to, it's come up a couple of times about the first grant, the revolving renovation fund grant is a standalone piece. We have no choice. That is it's federal grant, and all of those run through the state. And so there's the free grant money, and there is the lower interest, zero interest grant money that we get through the bond bank, and then deferred interest bond bank. But it cannot be part of the other pieces. It has to be a standalone. And so the rest of the work, we could move or shift or massage it any way we want. But the first piece is sort of a take it or leave it, standalone air quality piece. That's all I have to say. Craig?
Hi, I'm April Corcoran. I was late, so my first question is, let's say hypothetically this gets approved, how long is it going to take to get everything completed?
That's a super hard question to ask, but we have heard from, you're gonna be mad at me, but we've heard that basically when the kids walk in the fall of 26, it will be largely completed.
Okay. My other question is, I know it's give and take, nothing's perfect, it all depends on the bids I get.
Okay.
And I just was curious if it's like super fast or like over a period of
It's
time.
not super fast.
Okay, so then my other question is, I am on our Patriot soccer board, So I'm a community member who utilizes this area. So my assumption is, hypothetically, this gets approved, all of the use fees would probably increase. Has any conversations had of that?
We have had conversations about that. We actually just increased our use fees this year, in this most recent school year, because they hadn't been increased in like 15 years. So we think we right-size those. I would say that the use fees are more likely to go up for the theater piece than for the fields piece, in that it might take a little bit more maintenance, right, than cleaning up this if we're using a whole larger facility. But we don't have plans to increase it a lot. And what I would say is this allows us, so people at Patriot Soccer, I've been Patriot Soccer, if it rains, like we just can't afford to have Patriot Soccer on our fields if it rains, because they're so overused as it is, right? If we have a field turf out there, you can play in a blizzard for all we care, right? It allows us to have way more opportunity on the fields. As Mike said, I'm actually sort of torn about the value of turf fields. They don't last forever. There's some stuff about injuries, whatever. I think we need to look at that. The reason that I currently support this iteration is it gets way more kids on our fields way more of the time. When we look at the number of hours per week that our fields can support, this basically allows us to add it by another 30%. Because we don't have to worry about overuse, we don't have to worry about when you get on and off. And I just think about the baseball and lacrosse teams, we've actually had to spend money repairing seats on the bleachers because our baseball and lacrosse guys are practicing in our gym and breaking seats, right? We can have them out in February, we can have them out in March, outside where they should be playing. That's a huge benefit in terms of getting our athletes on the field for me.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about our past crossroads with the rain. But you did answer my next question, which was about usage, because sometimes when you get new shiny things, you want to limit use, and that would be a concern is, would you be doing that? And I know football obviously uses the fields, and so it's good to hear that you want to continue to increase.
This was a big focus of the committee, the lawn committee, a personal thing of mine. We had folks from all over in terms of who's using, parents, coaches, the theater kids, and something I said at least a dozen times was I do not want to spend $50 million on something we're scared to let the kids use or now becomes don't be in here. I'm extremely proud of the way our district engages our kids. They are building their own sets. They are doing all the things. These kids are outside from 9 o'clock at night. And that's the value, that's what we want to provide for them, and not a thing that is like hands-off. So, and that's the durability piece. Like, don't make us something that they're going to break some shiny thing off and, we can't afford to fix it.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ken Edson. I just want to thank you too for all the hard work. I mean, I look at these plans and I think, they are amazing. And it would be amazing to have the whole shebang. I mean, it would. And I just want to say, I was in Robbie Schlegel's class, and it was so nice to hear that you're teaching people about him. It just blessed me tonight. I just want to echo really what Mike Johnson said. My house probably values at more than $350,000, and I'm going to imagine that most of you here tonight, your house does too, the way the market is. And so to think about just alone that my taxes could go up, if you're saying 770, I'm going to say 900 for me on just the school bond. That doesn't talk about what the taxes are going to be from your school budget that you're going to have as well, and the town budget also. So, I mean, in the economy that we have right now, I mean, it is a trying time. And I'm fortunate enough that my husband and I are on the other end. But you know what? We've raised our 4 kids, and gee, we want to do some stuff now with our money, And it's not really like I can't wait to just give some more money to taxes. So I would just echo the same thing, that you're going to have to be really cautious going into this, because you saw what happened with the school budget here now, 10 votes. I mean, I can't even imagine what this would be like if you put it into one lump sum. So that's just my thoughts.
I just want to make one note on valuation. the valuation 350K number comes from like the town valuation that the town has valued your house at. So you might see like, oh, Zinnia or whatever says that your house is worth 650K, right? It's not necessarily a moving target. The town does periodic revaluations. So if you're curious, like how would this affect me, make sure you go look at your tax bill and what your actual dwelling is evaluated at, right? It's not, it's like 75% even of what you might expect, I think is the last number. So just want to make that clear. It's not like some little 2-bedroom ranch next to me on Mountain View, like 750K the other day, which I think is insane, but that doesn't mean that house is valued at 750K by the town.
Any other questions, call your tax assessor.
100%. If you have questions, call your tax assessor.
Hi, I'm Ann Hebert. I have a couple of questions. I just want to react a little bit to the statement that was just said below. It's 100% taxes that are driving the budget. What happens here is how everyone's personally impacted, but it's just labelist taxes. At the end of the day, it's really supporting the community and the children in the community and the opportunities that exist for them in labelist taxes. And then also what April said before, I'd like to reiterate, you guys have said it too, the importance for me that these grounds are made available to the greater Boston community, whether or not it's listed or high school students, it's outside organizations, that space is definitely needed for everyone. The other thing I wanted to say, also was already touched on, but I'd like a better understanding of how long this project should be approved. Takes is a 5-year plan to build and construct this, 2 years, what does that look like? Is a copy of this presentation available online after this? If I want to share it with other people, to be able to go out and find that.
Sam's very excited. We absolutely will put it online. I will say that we're doing this twice with the same agenda. We may, we'll probably hold it until after Monday, in case anything gets, polished. And I do want to also include all the Q&A and parking lot and comments from each meeting, but we will make it available, and the streaming will be available.
In the field costs, is any irrigation included in those costs that you've done? And then I think my biggest point, and I apologize because I'm a little late to this game, I haven't come to fire and so this is the first one I've attended, but this is a large impact on every single community member. If this was to pass, I'm curious, what has the discussion been around the other aspects of the schools that we're not discussing tonight? So if you look at the 10 or 30-year plan for what is known today, what else is in the pipeline that you're coming after taxpayers or the within the future? Is this really encompassing what you think is the best value? I'm sure it is, but what else for the main parts of the school is coming our way that we can be considering if we were to do this?
That's a great question. Someone asked that exact question at the April listening session in 2023 that we had. And so you can find it in our archives, but it was one of the tasks that Craig and our facilities task undertook over the winter as part of the bond project. Right before the bond committee met, we went through and did a holistic look at all of our electrical systems, our HVAC systems, our roofs, our paving, all that kind of stuff. And we actually input that all into an asset management software package. So our facilities director is managing that. And that's part of where the HVAC project came from, is that we discovered, we have HVAC problems. It was news to me that our HVAC system was 50 years old. And so that was actually one of the pieces that we got right on applying for that renovation grant to see if we can get that paid for, thanks to our vendor. We don't see any other major issues coming down the pipeline. One thing that people have maybe heard us talk about is I do think there's a community discussion coming down the line about what to do with our local elementary schools. They are great. I love Russell School. I had kids there for 7 years. I loved it there. I went and played guitar in the classrooms. I had many amazing memories there. But those buildings are starting to get really old, really difficult to retrofit with air conditioning, efficient. I think the community over the next 10 to 15 years should probably have a conversation about whether we consolidate those elementary schools into one larger elementary school process. But there's no planning, there's no, it's just something that we've said aloud because we want to make sure people think about it, is how much money can we save in the long run by consolidating that, getting a LEED certified, energy efficient, HVAC enabled school that consolidates those three. That, I think that's a difficult community conversation, but that's the only major capital thing we see. We consider this to be a bond for the next 30 years.
To answer the question on irrigation,
Yeah, so every natural grass field is carrying new irrigation systems. We're also carrying sod for the install right now. So kind of a high-end finish so that you can use it very, very quickly and not wait 2 years for the seed to take place and we're all waiting to actually use a field. So hopefully week 1 it's ready to go and raise.
Also, since I got asked again, what's a conservative estimate on the length of the construction aspect of the process?
So what we're looking at right now is how things can be phased, right? Because we realize that if you're just looking at durations, the scale of this project, there are a number of contractors in Maine that can handle the scale of a project like this. Construction dwindle it down, right? So you need to look at how you can break things up from a construction phasing point of view, so you can open things up to get better bids from some smaller contractors. So we are looking at that. I mean, you're looking at potentially anywhere from a 24-month to a 36-month construction duration. Depending on the duration, how things fit, opens you up to a different size contractor, which can help you with your bids. As a part of that, we're looking at how we can fit things in sooner to benefit the overall project. So if the mechanical renovations piece goes where this building goes, what a really great thing would be to do is take the sprinkler component that we know we're going to have to do while they have the ceilings open for mechanical systems, early bid the sprinkler package so you can get the sprinkler in the existing building while the ceilings are already down. So we're looking at things like that to see how we can phase this piece to get it to work the best to consolidate the schedule. So that's still something we're looking at to kind of best fit the site.
Hello everyone, my name is Ian McCarthy. I'm the coach of the boys basketball team here at G&G and also raising 2 children that are coming up through the school system here in Gray. This probably isn't the right forum to talk about whether or not we need all of this, otherwise we wouldn't be talking about it. But as a coach, walking into some of the other schools, all of the schools, quite frankly, it's embarrassing compared to what they have and what we have now. And, if you went to any of our games this past season, packed house, not only is it dangerous for the athletes, it's extremely uncomfortable to come to that gym as a grown person, walking on the floor during a game with wet feet. The bleachers are right on the floor. I believe we had a player break his arm 3 years ago and the wall is not at regulation length. These are all things that are going to need to be addressed, and appreciate all the work that you guys have done. I think the folks that are going to vote no in this town don't necessarily care as much about the need. It's going to come down to the dollars and cents, and I'd like to really dig into the changes in cost over the last 8 years, and if this was voted yes 8 years ago, how much money we would have saved, what it potentially could look like if we kick the can down the road, and if we continue to patch things up, continue to put Band-Aids on our fields, our facilities, what's that going to cost? Because the expense is still going up.
So just to answer one piece of that, this is an example. The bond package that we voted down for the fields in 2016 was $3.4 million. It's not 100% apples to apples, but it's basically the same plan now, a little bit of rejiggering based on our usage, and it's $14 million. So over the course of that 8 years, that project went from $3 to $14 million. Things are not getting cheaper.
They're not getting cheaper. I would say, I'm curious what and how you came to the interest rates that are up there. Since that time frame, rates went from 3% to 8%.
Now, this is today the average municipal bond rate. I looked it up today.
Right, so on the optimistic side, 10 years from now, we're looking at refinancing this debt. Hopefully it will be cheaper. Who knows? I'm not a crystal ball. But if we're going to make statements here, publicly about what money could turn into 30 years from now if we're going to invest $2,200. I think it's fair to look at the big picture of what needs to be done forward. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Elaine Duffus. I've lived here in Gray since 1999, and I'm so thrilled. I'm one of these people who's been pushing for an auditorium since that time frame, and was very upset about another cafetorium instead. So, but I have a couple of questions. And as a parent of a former Patriot player and a former state champion athlete, I care about both athletic and building. Is one going to have priority over the other? Because what happens when we have cost overruns? You're looking at an ugly purple curtain because we ran out of money and they bought an old used non-school color curtain from someone else.
Right, so I can answer that. So you heard in the presentation that there's $8 million contingency, right? So there's $8 million in contingency funds in that estimate, which allows for overruns or anything like that. This gets into the weeds a little bit, but when we vote on the bond package, what you're authorizing is an amount of money that we're allowed to borrow. We are not going to go out and borrow it all at once. What we'll do is issue bonds to pay for pieces of the project as they are being built, right? And so we hope we don't have to borrow that last $8 million, but that last $8 million accounts for the cost overruns, and we don't anticipate any crazy things happening, but there shouldn't be any reason why we would have to, rob Peter to pay Paul, so to speak. The amount of money should be enough to get the things done that are getting done. There are definitely little pieces that we won't know about, right? They'll go and put the septic field in, and they'll find a giant boulder the size of Mars, and it'll be a problem, but that's what the contingency is for, and it should be fine.
So would everything be going on at the same time? Work on the fields, work on the new...
So that was what Mike was just talking about.
Yeah.
It's definitely going to be staged a little bit, right? So just like Mike was saying, we'll try to take advantage of if the ceilings are open for the HVAC, we'll get the sprinklers in there, right? We're probably going to do the parking before we do the building, so that when we do the building, we don't steal all the parking and there's no parking, right? So there's definitely stages, but we would be authorizing the spend for the whole project.
Okay, I have one other question. The explanation of the pathways and the parking and all of that, and I noticed that it sort of puts the transportation department in an interesting spot. Are they still going to have enough room? Is there going to be added security around there with all these extra people meandering down in that area?
So good catch. The location of the transportation department, location of the greenhouse were very sort of, particular bits. This is an idea, very fleshed out to get us going, but by no means final. A lot of conversation around, do we move that, do we not, do we put in some things around it? If you look very closely, I don't know if they show it, but there's some some opportunity for some gating. Do you want to answer this?
Yeah, so as it's currently laid out, there's enough room for all the buses to get in and out of the garages, move around the building, and still exist in that location. We're showing some gating opportunities so that during a regular school day, perhaps nobody's actually cutting through, that stays in a bus yard. On a large event, those gates could be open, emergency gates could be open, and that access drive could be open for people to keep us in and out.
I just know there's not a whole lot of security back there right now, so thank you very much. You guys your work is awesome. Thank you.
Any other takers? So seeing none, my dream was 2 hours. I can't believe that we actually did it. I do want to thank everyone for being here and just reiterate what a massive project this is. These are still a lot of question marks that we're, giving our best information to try to be as transparent as possible. We have heard in sessions, I do want to leave you with a question and encourage you to get back to us. In previous sessions, we heard very loudly, please don't separate this and pit the different groups of kids and needs against each other. Tonight, I'm hearing, some concern about this is a lot, maybe you should break it up. Everything is on the table. If we did, then what would that look like? What do folks want to see? And also bear in mind that if we did, those associated extra costs would not just be split into thirds and spread around. It would add to the total of each individual project. But so I do welcome more thoughts after the fact. If you did a chance to look at our materials, you can reach us at schoolboard@sad15.org. Sorry, just taking ownership of that email inbox the past couple weeks. And get your thoughts to us, get your questions to us. We're going to keep a running FAQ. We're going to keep a running feedback form, and we do want this to be a conversation. I want this so badly for our kids, but we can't. That's not going to be enough. So, what do folks need to hear or see to get you to feel like this is worth the investment as well? We want to know about that. So, please be in touch.
And again, if you're looking for any of the past documentation, there is a bond documents folder that's right on our website. Go to the website, scroll to the bottom, click on school board, and you'll find the bond documentation in the meeting archives. Sometimes you engage when you engage, and we want you to get the information that you need right away. But just know that there is a 30-page report in there where we document all the things that we did. We talked to hundreds of people. We've had many, many meetings. We have engaged lots of stakeholders. If we are doing something weird and you're like, why would you do something that dumb? Please ask us, right? Don't just think that we're so dumb, we just did a dumb thing, right? There's probably a reason for it, right? So reach out to us, let us answer that question, because we're really excited about what this offers to the entire community. We want to make sure you are too.
Thanks for coming.